Alrighty, welcome. Good afternoon, everybody, to this session of the Installer Festival. My name is Paddy. I'll be hosting today, and today's guest we've got the founder and CEO of Shake and Spear, Mr. Grant Robertson. So thank you very much for joining us, Grant.
You're very welcome. Nice to be here.
And a quick bit of housekeeping. We've got, as I'm sure some of you will have seen if you've been to any of the other sessions in the week, we've got the chat window down on the right. So if you have anything you want to say, please pop it in there. Keep it nice and friendly. And if you want to ask a question more formally, there's an ask a question section down the bottom. So we'll filter through the questions toward the end. So definitely get the questions in if you've got anything that you'd like to ask. So yeah, we've got the festival all week. We've got today and tomorrow left. So as I said, we've got Grant Robertson here from Shake and Spear. And today's subject is going to be about driving more conversions to your website through the structure of your website and the conversation with the people that are going to be on your website. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Grant. And if you'd like to give us a little rundown of who you are and what is it you do at Shake and Spear, and then off you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. As Paddy was saying, please don't hesitate just to drop a question into the chat box or use the ask a question one. If it's the right time, I'll answer it as we go. Otherwise, I'll pick it up towards the end. So today we are going to be talking about how to drive more conversations for your website. And I'll explain a bit more about what we mean by conversations in a not too distant part. But first, this is what we're going to be covering. So the features that your website should have to get more people to talk. And that means to talk with you, talk about you, and hopefully drive more customers your way. We're going to look at what those could be and how you can make the most of them. A little bit about me. My name's Grant Robertson. As Paddy was saying, I'm the founder of Shake and Spear. We are web design and digital marketing specialists for the trade sector. So we do the vast majority of our work is with the construction and trade sector. We've worked with many different people from all different sectors. And in fact, the vast majority of our clients do tend to be in the installer world. Lots of plumbing and heating engineers getting in touch with us to help them out with their website and sort of build that more professional outlook. So getting into what we're talking about today. So the one unchangeable thing, which is true in every single one of these seminars which we've done, and whenever you're thinking about your website and your digital presence, is you need to always be putting yourself in the shoes of the customer, your ideal customer. So whenever you're building something on your site, whenever you're adding some extra information, whenever you're updating it, we always want you to be thinking about what your customer wants and how they would likely want to access it. And that's worth getting right, because what worked 10 years ago, what worked even 5 years ago, and in the world of web even 2 years ago, has changed rapidly and is always evolving. So, and I'll touch on this later, whenever you're working on your website, don't consider it to be a done deal, sort of one of those tasks that you do one weekend and I've done my website and that's it. It's always worth sort of coming back to it and keeping it fresh regularly. So now we'll get into some of the different ways in which we can try and drive conversations towards our website and to get customers talking to us. So your website is one of your greatest marketing assets, but essentially, how can we get it to work harder and get those conversations flowing? Now, when I'm talking about conversations, the other sort of word which we use a lot is conversions. Now, conversations are that first step in actually getting those conversions, getting new customers. They're very similar in meaning, because essentially you could say you've converted a customer when they have a conversation with you, but that's unlikely to be the case. We sort of say that you've converted a customer when they've actually bought from you, when they've actually booked you in to do a job. Whereas a conversation, that can be that first instance that they pick up the phone. And the more of those that we get, more likely we are to have someone who's going to book us in, get us to come around and do some work for them. So they need to talk to us and have a conversation with us before they can go ahead and purchase any of our services. Now, when it comes to your website, quick loading times, speed is one of the main things that we want to focus on. The reason why is because you might get a recommendation. Someone might go onto something like Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, any of these sort of social media things, even have a chat down the pub and just say, does anyone recommend someone to come around and have a look at my boiler? I know I need to get it serviced next month, potentially get a new install. Can anyone recommend someone? They'll get flooded with lots of different recommendations. They might get posted about quite a lot on Facebook. And what they'll then do is break those down and they'll begin to do their own research. Now, one of the first things that people do when they find out about you is Google you. They will try and find your website. If they come onto your website, and even if they come on their phone or on their desktop, and it takes ages for your website to load, chances are that person's going to just press back and move on to the next recommendation. Because it turns out, we used to talk about sort of the attention span of a goldfish. It turns out that in recent research, that actually human beings, when it comes to the internet, have an attention span shorter than a goldfish. And you've only got around about 2.5 seconds max for your website to load before people start to get turned off and start to turn back. And each person that presses back is a potentially lost customer. Now, there is a way that you can test this. And the last time I brought this up, actually, some people were willing to share what their website came to. There is a website done by Google called Google PageSpeed. If you just go onto any browser, type in Google PageSpeed, and it's usually the top hit. So it says something like PageSpeed Insights. Pop your website into this bar and click Analyze. And it will take you around about 30 seconds to a minute or so. And it will come back with a score. Now, it will look incredibly technical and tell you how you can improve your score and so on. But if your website is in the red, which is something like below 30, they give it a score out of 100. If it's in the red, then it's worth talking to your web developer about seeing if you can get it to sped up. Now, it might be that you've got lots of video on there, or you've got lots of heavy imagery, or simply it might be that your hosting isn't as fast as you want it to be. Mobile is usually a lower score than desktop, because lots of people will build their websites on desktop and forget that mobile actually takes a lot longer to load, especially over like 3G, 4G, 5G is obviously a lot quicker. Now, I recommend everyone have a go, put your website in there, analyze. If you're feeling brave enough, feel free to put what your scores are in the chat. Last time, just to set the bar, someone came back and said they got a score of 10 out of 100. So there's no bad scores. It's just opportunities for us to improve things. One of the main culprits for slowing down your website is putting up really massive quality images. So we've got this short video here which is showing you, it's a website called compressed JPEG or compressed PNG. JPEG and PNGs are just types of images. All you have to do is just drag an image onto this website, drop it, and it compresses it for you. And then you can just click download, and you can see in this instance, it's compressed it by 46%. What does compress even mean? Well, compress means that it reduces the image file size without actually reducing the quality of the image. Now, the reason why we want to always do this with websites is because the amount of time, the amount of time it takes to load a large image all goes into the loading speed of your website. So if we can reduce the amount of data that your website has to load every time someone goes onto a new page, it will decrease the loading speed. So if we can compress images, it's really good. So if you're in charge of your own website, every time you go to upload a new case study, upload a new photo, I strongly recommend that you go on to, it's just compressedjpeg.com. This is one example out of many. There are lots of these websites out there. And you can select what file type you've got and compress it, then upload that version. It will make a massive difference to your site. So why should you bother making your site quicker? Well, it's exactly as I said. We're looking to get as many people to come onto your site as possible and sort of put your name into the hat and take you to that next level along their evaluation process. And if they can spend time on your site and they can investigate it, getting past that loading barrier, then you stand far more of a chance of being hired. So now people want a bit more from your site nowadays, rather than just sort of looking at a gallery of images. and just sort of clicking through past jobs. They're actually looking for a little bit more. They're looking for a bit of interaction. And so there are different ways which we can do it. Now, two of the easiest ways which we've come across, one of the top ways is just simply having your contact data interactable. So in this instance, we've got a contact telephone number, we've got an address, and we've got an email address. Now, they look static, but actually if you were to hover over them on mobile and you click that, it would take you straight through to your mobile phone settings, so you can just ring it. No need to copy and paste. And we do that through a simple link system. You just highlight that number, and rather than typing in www. You type in tell, which I've just put in the chat there, and then a colon, and then just put the number. And that's what we call a tell link. And it will mean that whenever someone's on mobile and they click it, automatically opens up their phone and you can ring. For the address, we set this up to be a link to Google Maps so that people can click onto it and it takes them through to a familiar place and they can have a look and see sort of where you are in the service that you offer. In this instance, quite straightforward. You just click it, opens up your email, you can send it. So that sort of simple interactivity is one step, nice and straightforward. Taking it to another level, and this is one that's sort of especially useful for those who are working in the sort of boiler industry. There is a system called TrueQuote, which is out there, and it's very simple to install. They have a completely interactive quote sort of setup, which just works really smoothly. It looks really good on your website and gives you an opportunity to sort of put some prices out there. Now you get to choose these prices and you get to add on lots of additional features if you want. So it's a good opportunity for sort of upselling. And it gives you the opportunity, if you offer it, to add finance. What it means is that it takes people the opportunity, it gives them the opportunity to sort of see what they can get from you before they have to pick up the phone, because there's a lot of sort of anxiety nowadays around whether or not around picking up the phone and actually just ringing people. These are some example questions that you can see, so you can go through. It gives you the option. You don't have to put this in. This is not something that you offer. We'll just say yes. What type of fuel do you use? And then it just comes up with these examples. Now you can allow people to sort of set deposits and lets them know what their monthly payments will be. Shows you what interest will be if you're offering finance, and can offer 0%. This is entirely up to you. I don't believe that TrueQuote are the company who obviously offer the finance, but it's worth investigating, and they're called TrueQuote. They're not too expensive. I think it's about £20 a month or something. And we personally, we build all our websites in WordPress, and it's dead easy to apply to that. If you do your websites on something else, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to apply it as well. So carrying on, just make that full screen again. Direct chat is something which we have started to see more and more on sites, and it's something that we would recommend on every site nowadays. Everyone needs someone to talk to, I've put here, and this is an easy option. Now, linking on to what I was previously saying, fewer and fewer people are actually bothering to pick up the phone and ring people. What we are finding is people are turning to the likes of WhatsApp, to Facebook Messenger, some emails, but lots of people just want that instant feedback, and it sort of, it reduces some of the barriers to getting in touch with people. It feels a little bit less formal. So people like the option of WhatsApp and Messenger. Thankfully, this is dead easy to put onto your website. There are options to put bots onto your website, so sort of answering services. It's almost like an answer phone for your own website. And a bot essentially gives you the option to set up a few questions so that people can just respond to you without you actually having to do it. So you could try and set some qualifying questions like, what services are you looking for? And you can give them a drop-down menu. So that it could be boiler services, it could be boiler installations, it could be coming around to do repairs. It could be any sorts of different sort of levels like that. Personally, though, if you are someone who has access to your phone quite a lot of the time, human touch is always best. So you could say to them, drop us a message and we'll get back in touch with you within 15 minutes or something like that. So when it comes to adding WhatsApp, here's an example. This is on our own website. You can just click this button, it pops up, and that direct links through to my WhatsApp, my personal WhatsApp, and it just pings it through. That's one option. If you are on mobile and you click that button, it will actually just open up WhatsApp straight away, and it just comes through. You can just start. They can just ping you a quick question. They can say, actually, can you give me a call later? And as I was saying, it just makes life really quick and straightforward. You can do exactly the same thing, but with Facebook Messenger instead, if you can link it to one of your own Facebook pages. Another example here, this is from another website which we built, and you can just have the WhatsApp logo here, and people recognize this so instantly now that you click that, it opens up straight through to WhatsApp, and it's nice and quick. Next one, video. And this one isn't going anywhere. Video is just grown and grown and grown in popularity, and will continue to grow in popularity as we go forwards. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to sort of get yourself onto the silver screen and start sort of talking to video, because I know lots of people don't particularly like that. But one of the great options for video that we've got is for people to just pop their phone sort of in the background while they're working. I think this video is a little bit cheesy, but sort of fly on the wall videos are dead easy to film and actually have a really good impact on your website. And it just gives people an idea of who is going to be coming through their door, who's going to be working. Now, this is just a stock image, and I just found this one sort of through a database which we've got access to. But if you can just pop your phone over your shoulder, prop it up, and just click record, then you can crop that video down and stick that onto your site. It just adds that extra little bit of interactivity and just works really nicely. I've just seen that questions come in. Raymond, thank you very much for asking for our contact details. They are on the last slide, but I'll also pop them in at the end. So video, it works. Where should you use that video? Well, don't feel obliged to pop it just onto your website. You can 100% also post it onto your social media. So Twitter, Instagram especially, Facebook works really well. You could just use it as just a background video to a bit of text, and ads as well. So some people are starting to get into Facebook ads, and they need some visual media to be really effective. These type of videos work really well, especially alongside like a little bit of text. So consider using them in that way. Full screen hero and headers. Now, this might seem like quite an obvious option. Now, that's a very fancy way for saying a big picture at the top of your website. But it's your opportunity to show off from the moment you land on their site. We see lots of websites where they're just like, it's just like a wall of text as soon as people arrive, and maybe a logo in the corner, and then it says, we offer power flushing, radiator changes, and there's just a long list of what we do. And people just get a bit overwhelmed, and it's not particularly attractive when people come to your website. So we tend to recommend that sort of near the top, one of the first things people see is just nice, big, clear imagery. Shows people exactly the type of thing you do. So this is another site that we did. Guys, Emma and Darren up in Manchester, Morris HTTP. This is just one of their pieces of work in the background. Really clear call to action. Get a free quote for your job. If you click that, it takes you through to a contact us page. They immediately can leave details, get someone to give them a call back. Another good example, this one from Russell Plumbing and Heating. Again, really clearly, this is exactly what we do. We work with boilers. But rather than having the big image across the entire thing and that's all you see, we purposely put in this form as one of the very first things to see. So it goes back to that attention span idea. So people just can't be bothered to spend ages and ages researching stuff nowadays. What they want to do is just go onto a website, enter a few details, ping out a message. And this form actually has quite a lot of info, like having to leave your name, email address, telephone number, what you're interested in, and a message. You can see they've got the stars next to them, which means that they are required fields. I would consider making sure your name's required, obviously, so you know who you're talking to. But I would query whether or not you put down both of these, email address and telephone number. Give people the option, because some people just don't want to be wrong. They just want a quote emailed to them. Some people do, but give them the option so they only have to leave one, really. Interested in or message, I would say, because most people can just select one of those and then get you to call back. Message is helpful. I would have that available, but not make it compulsory, because not everyone feels the need to explain everything to you in that initial chat. Next is SSL certificates. Now, an SSL certificate is a way of saying a secure website. So if I just close this a little bit, now you can see up here in this top corner, it's very small, but you see this small padlock. That padlock means that the website is secure. And it doesn't look like much, but it essentially means that if you were to leave any of your data on that website, it is encrypted and makes it far harder for the likes of hackers and so on to get hold of your data. It means a few other things as well, but that's sort of it, essentially, put simply. Why you should go to the effort of getting one. Now, most web developers, website designers will offer them, whether or not they're included with your website or they are, you may have to pay for them. Sometimes they're like 25. I've seen some people charging 100 quid. We just include them for free with all of our websites because we feel like this is just a complete baseline thing, which everyone should have. Why you should go to the effort is twofold. One, it increases security for your customers. And also when they turn up on your website, they won't get a pop-up that says this website is not secure. If you don't have one and a customer goes to your website and it says this website is not secure, that suddenly puts up some red flags and alarm bells, and they're probably just going to click back, or your hard work's gone for naught. Secondly, Google is going to start only ranking websites that have these. And that's probably the biggest reason why you should have one. Google's simply going to stop putting websites that don't have the security certificate in their search results. So strongly recommend, if you haven't got one, go and get one. Easiest way to check if you have got one, just go to your website on a mobile or a desktop. Desktop's a bit easier. Just look at the address bar at the top, and if it says HTTPS, then it is secure. And have a look for that padlock to the left of HTTPS. If you've got it, then it's secure, and that's it. Yeah, that would have been helpful to have up for my last bit of chat. That's there. So yeah, talk to your hosting provider if you haven't got one. So that's whoever is looking after your website. Next one, your About Us pages. Now, these are some really powerful pages when it comes to driving conversations. And again, it's a trend which is not really going to be going anywhere. They only really work if you bother to sort of put in personalization. This is an example of our own one. People want to see who they're actually going to be working with. So photos of you, photos of your team, photos of your livery, photos of your vans, all of those things come in really are really important when it comes to your About Us page, because people just like to know who they're actually going to be working with. People like to know who's actually going to turn up at their house, walk through their front door. Because if you can build a little bit of trust by letting people see who you are first, it makes a big difference. Not many people are that keen to get on camera, but for the sake of taking one slightly painful picture, it makes a world of difference. So I do strongly recommend it. But also tell your story. Sort of say why you like working in that area. How long have you been working there for? Why should people trust you? Why should people let you sort of into their home? It's an opportunity for you to sort of push and sort of sell yourself, really. So we'll wrap up now with like 4 key points for the future. And this sort of goes for your websites in general, and how you can sort of keep them fresh and keep people coming and talking to you about on your websites. First step is just sharing it. So making sure that you are simply spreading the word. the more people who visit your site, the more popular it gets with Google. It's one of the factors when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization, ranking nice and high on Google. The more people who come to your website means there's more eyes on your pages, which means that there's more opportunity for conversations. If you've got those things in place, which we were talking about, people can drop you a WhatsApp, people can learn about you on your About Us page, people can get to know your services. There are interactive elements. They're all opportunities for you to open up those conversations, which means that there's more opportunity for potential for more work. Make sure that you are updating your website, because websites do need updates. Now, I know what it's like, and I have been guilty of it in the past, where an update pops up on your computer and you just click snooze for 24 hours, and you do that for about 3 years and then wonder why your computer's gone slow. Same problem with your website. If you just ignore the updates or you don't bother to check in on it, it will eventually grind to a halt, and it can eventually just break and stop working. And that would be such a shame if you put work and effort into it and then people couldn't sort of actually get there and see it. So keep an eye on those updates. Maintaining it in like a similar vein, and I touched on it right at the start of the seminar, is don't ignore your site and just consider it to be done. Keep adding to it and keep making sure that it's fresh. Now, this could be that you've completed a new job and you've taken some good pictures. It could be a new case study, which is really good for like before and after photos. They work really well. It could be you've got a new team member and you want to introduce them to everyone on your About Us page. Adding those bits and pieces keeps your website looking fresh, keeps it updated, and it just looks really good. People can see you're engaged and you're like focused on building your business. Social feeds. If you're active on social media, these are really good. So we've worked with a few people recently who are really active on Instagram, really active on Facebook. And what you can do, especially on the sites which we build at least, you can have your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed embedded onto your website. And it works really well because it means that whenever you upload a picture to Instagram, it will automatically go onto your website and show up there. No extra work required, just the initial setup. And it's great because it shows that something fresh is coming up onto your website. Could even be daily at that point. And yeah, it just helps it looking fresh, and people can see that you're on it, you're available, you're engaged, and they're more likely to open up that initial conversation with you. And if you haven't got a website, which not everyone does, do it. Please go out and get one, because having a website, it legitimizes those recommendations, all of those chats down the pub, all of those recommendations on Facebook, those fleeting conversations at work. It legitimizes those recommendations with the professional front and promotes your business. There's very little not to like. So I strongly recommend you just go out and get yourself one, even if it's a starter one. And that pretty much covers it. So final thing is we offer a quick freebie. If you just want to have a chat with me, learn a bit more about what you need, feel free to drop me an email. The email is here, inquiries@shakeandspear.com, or it's on the link which is in the chat. But also, as a thank you for listening all the way through, we have this code. If in any conversation you have with me, you say, I was on the installer webinar, or if you're emailing me, just quote this code, installer webinar 2021, we'll knock 10% off. So our standard 5-page websites, which is what most people go for, are about 500 quid. Well, they are 500 quid. With that code, we'll knock 10% off for you. So that pretty much covers it. So I'll leave my details on there if anyone's got any further questions.
Well, that's great, Grant. Thank you very much. I hope there's plenty of useful information there. It really is so important, web design and websites these days. There's so many people that I meet, in the trade that still haven't even got a website, and you think you're absolutely bananas. I got a couple of little questions for you, Grant. Since we haven't got any other questions in there. There was one question asking about the contact form, but obviously your website's in there and you've just put the number in. But one of the questions I was obviously it'd be great if they can go to you, but if they might not have that sort of budget or whatever, have you got any recommendations for sort of web builders? Because there are a few of them about, and I don't know if you recommend any of those.
Yeah, that absolutely are web builders out there. So there's the likes of Wix and Squarespace. I don't have a particular sort of preference on either one of those. All I would say is bear in mind that you will need to invest quite a lot of time and effort into sort of building your own website. So there are some like good templates out there which work really well, but you're in it for the long haul at that point. And it can take sort of quite a while to sort of get going. It's worth knowing also, small extra plug, that we do offer like starter one-page websites for free. And we can just get you sort of up and online initially. They're a good start point. They're pretty much like an extension to your business card. But if there's absolutely no budget for you at that point, then yeah, that's how we can help.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially with contact pages, the amount of times you go to a website and you can't find the contact information, you think that's pretty much the most important thing. You know, you're up there so that people can get hold of you. It's just it's not completely free, but it's a relatively low cost advertisement having your website out there, isn't it? Really, just.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, contact pages, it's so easy to bury them, and people just sort of think, oh, it's just a contact page, I'll just pop it over there. That's why we always recommend sort of having at the top of your page, you can usually have a bar that sort of travels with you as you scroll. Have your email address, have your telephone number on there. Make them clickable using sort of those links I was talking about earlier. And yeah, people will use them.
And for the websites that you guys do you is there a situation where they can update the pages themselves, or does it all have to completely go back?
No. Whenever we build a site, we don't like to lock people into retainers, because to be honest, most people don't use them month on month. People aren't updating their websites every month. So what we recommend people do is when we finish building a site, we go through a smaller bit of training, and we can show you how to do it. It's a little bit more complicated than one of the builders, but not by a long shot. It's very straightforward to change pictures, update text, and so on. And if you really don't want to do it, can't be asked to do it, then we do it on sort of one-off admin fees.
Yeah, brilliant. And is there any particular things that you request if someone's designing the website, or you're designing the website for someone? What's the key bits of information that you try and draw from them so that you can get the most out of it?
Yeah, so we always ask sort of what services people offer and where they want to offer it. Those are sort of like the base things. And then we tend to be able to sort of dig into what they offer there. But in terms of the actual design, getting it right for you and getting it right for your business, we always ask for inspiration sites. So we always ask people to go off and look at websites that they like, and also websites that they don't like. And they really help us sort of come up with ideas. Because quite often people are like, oh, I don't know, I just want a website, I don't know how I want it. And then you might design something, send it to them, and they're like, oh no, I don't want that one. And so it's really good for people to have an idea in their head of what they like, send over example websites, even if it's not with us. Future other web developers will really appreciate that. So yeah, that, and just be clear on what services you want to offer and where you want to offer them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just I don't see how a business in this day and age, unless you've got somehow just a flood of business coming in, it just seems senseless not to have one.
Yeah, it's often the case, and people quite often say, "Oh, I don't need it because I've got so much business through word of mouth." And I always say that's great, that's awesome for now. It might not always be the case. So it's always worth having it as a backup. Plus also, it's exactly as I was saying during the seminar. When someone recommends you, people will want to check you out. So it's worth having as just a legitimizer.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Grant. I think that's we haven't had any other questions come in, but I think we've pretty much covered everything there. So for everybody joining, thank you very much for listening in. We've got one more day tomorrow of the festival, so if you want to tune into any other sessions, go check on the Crowdcast link, which I think will be in the chat in a moment. So thank you very much, Grant, and enjoy the rest of your day. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Grant, check his website out, and I'm sure he'll be there to help you with any questions about web design and what you can do for you.
Awesome.
All
Thanks
right.
very much,
Take care,
Paddy.
everybody. Take care.
Bye.